I had migraines all throughout my childhood, and the week after my 12th birthday, I had migraines that just would not go away. We went to urgent care probably 3 or 4 times throughout the week, trying to get pain medicine, figure out what's going on, and they finally sent us to a neurologist. The doctor referred us to get a MRI, and he said it should be fine. It's just protocol just to make sure that there's nothing going on. So a couple days later, I go for an MRI, and they send us immediately back to the neurologist's office. They take my parents into the room and ask me to wait outside, and then bring me back in and tell me that I had a brain tumor. I was only given 11 months to live, and that's when my life changed.
My cousin Damien developed leukemia when he was 10 years old. Every time we were together, we would play, we would have fun. And then, when he was diagnosed, he was not around anymore. So that was the first time where I realized how severe cancer was, because he would be gone for extended periods of time. And then he lost his hair during this time. He lost a lot of weight during this time. So I realized just how impactful and devastating of a disease it could be. I've just been one of those kids that was always curious about everything. I've always had a fascination for everything scientific. My mom purchased my first microscope when I was 5 years old. Eventually one day I told her I'm going to start my own lab when I was like 6 or 7. At that time I said, this is what I want to devote the rest of my life to. I want to be a scientist. I'm going to devote my scientific interest in to try to create opportunities and drugs so families don't have to go through such an ordeal. I'm fulfilling a promise that I made to my cousin a long time ago.
So I did 33 rounds of radiation at Emory Winship. I reacted terribly to the chemo. I got very sick. I had several infections, lost all my hair, all of those things that kind of come with chemo. And then after that, my parents got me into a clinical trial. I went back for an MRI. I was going for MRIs probably every 2 weeks at the time, and something just changed on my scans. To my understanding, the blood flow to my tumor was cut off. It's basically dead tissue. So I go back for MRIs once a year just to make sure nothing changes. I wasn't supposed to make it to my 13th birthday, and here I am at 22 years old now.
So I've been funded by the American Cancer Society twice. And, it's a big deal for a young scientist to get their own independent funding. It's kind of like a stamp of approval that, hey, you've made it and you can do this. I started my lab here at Emory University in 2016. And so stories like Julia is the reason why we do this. We hope that, our efforts in the lab funding by the ACS allows us to have scenarios where we have more survivors and also reduce the amount of stress that families experience during this process.
I just graduated from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and I'm working at Children's of Alabama Hospital. There's a reason that I survived cancer, and that I need to use that to help others. It's through important research that Dr. Henry does that I'm able to be here today, and that I made it past 13 years old.
So the goal of my research is to try to help people like Julia. We would hope that the innovation of our research would lead to something like what the outcome was with Julia, being able to survive over a decade, have a healthy, productive life, finishing nursing school. That would be the ideal scenario that I think every scientist is trying to achieve. The support from donors is very important for our research endeavors because it allows us to be innovative, to approach experiments that we normally either wouldn't have funding to support from traditional mechanisms to create better treatment options for patients with cancer. It also means being a part of a family that understands that we all have to work together to do this collectively.
The American Cancer Society gives patients, parents, families, caregivers the hope that they need, that there will be a cure one day. And I think hope plays an enormous role. That resilience that we see in patients, that comes from hope that there is another day